And welcome back to the DMGB conversation. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, the DMG stands for Doesn't Matter, Get Better, because here we believe that that's the philosophy, that it doesn't matter what's going on around you, your environment, your circumstances. You have to find a way every day to get 1% better. So I am super excited to welcome the next guest to the conversation. Laurie is a dear friend of my family. She's an unbelievable female leader in not only the community, but in business and at home. She's the CEO and president of Junior Achievement down here in South Florida, which does incredible things for kids. And her story and her track of how she got to where she is phenomenal. So, Laurie, welcome to the conversation.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm fan.
And I can't wait for this conversation.
Good. I'm glad. Me as well. So everybody gets the full background. Family friend, dear friend of my dad's for a long time. And you and I became close when I first got out of coaching a year and a half ago. And I came down here and took part in the, The Shark
Tank, right? Wasn't it?
Shark Tank. It was the Spark Tank is what it was. It was the Spark Tank, which was an unbelievable event. Young entrepreneurs creating ideas, innovating, and I got to be a judge and a part of that. And that's really what sparked our relationship. And now, you know, as I do with most people, I try to become the favorite in the family aside from my dad. And I've successfully done this.
We all like you better.
Laurie, thank you for being on the show. Give everybody the Cliff Notes version of where you come from and how you got to where you are now.
I'd love to. Cliff version, you know, I'm kind of old for that. But so I think, you know, the first thing I want to say is that our young people look at us today and think that we were always here, right? We weren't always here. And your career and when you get where you're going, right, doesn't always go like this. Right. Often
it actually never does. Right. Like, right. I don't know if there is a scenario where somebody has had nothing but climb to success, no setbacks, and had I don't know that exists.
Right. And by the way, if you would have asked me at 20 years old or whatever age, did I want to be a CEO of a nonprofit? I would have said, what's a nonprofit? First of all. And number two, no, I had no desire to be a CEO. Right.
What was the desire? What was the desire? What was it?
So I think
at 20,
there's always been a desire for me to make a difference in people's lives. And so while I didn't really understand the concept of a nonprofit, from the time that I was young, my dad was a dean of students at a college. And so his focus was on young people and developing young people of every background. And so from the time I was 8-10 years old, I was going on outward bound trips, right, with kids who were from very low income neighborhoods to Washington and wherever. And I was a little white kid that they just dragged along somewhere, right? and honestly, but what an amazing opportunity. And my dad was like that. He was all about making a difference in young people's lives. And my mom too was superintendent of school. So I grew up in that environment. And so, and then that transferred from you know, when I was a teenager, I worked in a hospital, I guess you could call it, or an institution which was for people with disabilities. And that was my first exposure to Down syndrome, and as you know, I have my Patrick who has Down syndrome. So kind of feel like God prepares you and puts you in certain things. It's not an accident. I truly believe that. Right. And so that was one thing, you know, he put me in that place. Then I went into, I was going to college. And you would think, oh, her father's a dean of students of a college, her mother's a superintendent of schools, she got her college degree. Yeah, no. Took me 10, my father always had a running joke that I had the longest college career ever. It took me 10 years to finish college. Nobody knows that because they know I have a degree, right?
Right.
But I quit with 18 credits because I started working for a big firm in New York, Ogilvy and Mather, and was working my way up the ladder. I hated school. I loved doing. I was a hands-on people person, want to get in there and fix it and do it, right? And make a difference. And so I quit with 18 credits left. My father never pressured me, thank goodness. And, you know, I eventually realized as I got to the VP level that if I didn't go back and finish my career, that if I ever wanted to leave Ogilvy, that it would be hard without having that piece of paper. And so I finished up at night. And so I had a great career in advertising, got so many opportunities there, had a woman mentor who just saw in me things I didn't see. And she'd throw me in situations and say, if you don't fix that, we're going to both be out of a job. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. And she'd be like, yeah, well, I'll figure it out. And guess what? So I am a big believer in throwing people in when I see that they have potential, because that's how I grew to be who I am today. And so I thank her and my parents, of course, immensely. And then I left New York to come down here to continue my career and to get married. I never found the career here that I really wanted at that point. And then had Patrick, who was born with Down syndrome. And so I really decided that I was going to focus on that, became an advocate, got involved in advocating for children with special needs, families at risk. And that just became my passion, right? That there's that make a difference part, but it was always around children and families. And then when I went through a divorce 12 years later, guess what? I had built myself a new career and didn't even know it because I was doing it as a volunteer. So that's kind of how I got to where I am. And then I went through a couple of different nonprofits and ended up here.
So when you were in advertising, did you feel like you were fulfilled, like your passion for making a difference was being fulfilled? Or is that almost what steered you out of it and not back into it? I mean, I understand you moved and you came down here and it was a new setting, but did you know already that advertising wasn't it anymore?
No, actually, I love the advertising industry. It's fast paced. And for somebody like me, right, my background, actually, my degree ended up being in business and accounting. How the heck I got in accounting? I would not know. I'm not a sit at the desk to accounting, and I hated those jobs, but I did them. And so, no, I loved advertising. And actually, I always felt like I was making a difference. I led a team of over 200 people. And so coaching them and leading them, to me, was part of making a life. So it wasn't just about people who, were suffering or needy or any of those things, but it was also just about helping people to grow and be the best they can be.
And find potential, right? Like that's really what it's about. So, as I do with everybody, I know you, but I still did research on you. And there was a term that you used in your bio that talks about taking organizations from good to great. And obviously I've lived in a culture where there's no other, there's no other option but to be great. You must be great. Otherwise it's failing. So how do you, transferring organization to organization, advertising teams, family, how do you, obviously you demand great from yourself, but how do you demand great from teams? How do you move people from feeling good and comfortable to being great?
Well, first of all, I grew up in a sports family, right? So I know you can relate to that. My dad and my brother, all of them, and my nephew, they all played professional baseball. And my dad was extremely competitive. And he always said, don't step on that field unless you're ready to give 110%. Because if you're not, don't play the game, right? So I am extremely competitive. But it's interesting, I'm not competitive against other people. I could care less about running a race and winning the race, right? I compete with myself. So when I started running years ago, I was just competing with myself. I'm going to go one more block. And before you knew it, I was at 5 miles a day, right? I don't do that anymore. But so it's always about competing with myself. How can I be better here at JA than I was before, right? Somewhere else. So so that's part of what drives me.
Yep.
So I think, and then the second part is, you said, I do expect the best from myself. I am a hard worker. That's not always enough, right? But I think you have to have that. But I do expect the best for myself. And when I say hard work, I don't necessarily mean that you work 20 hours a day, right? Although I do that. I think it's more about getting focused on the goal, right? And where am I going? And being in sports, right? It was about winning the games, right? That was the goal for that day. And then maybe the bigger goal was winning the season, right? And so I think what I find, and when I look at taking organizations from good to great, the first thing is you got to have the right people, right? And those people have to have the right mindset and doing the right behaviors to get where it is. And so we can talk about that, but it's been an interesting journey. And I will tell you, I think that is the hardest part of the job for any CEO.
I would imagine that it's even tougher in the nonprofit sector because it's a different ball game than the corporate world, where there's these salaries and there's this idea that you want to climb the ladder and get to this place and you want to be head of the company and all of those kinds of things. When you're dealing with people in the nonprofit, it's very service and all about the purpose, which is a great thing because you can find people that are passionate about the cause. But do they also have the same work ethic and drive and competitiveness that you need in order to be a successful organization? So how do you marry the two? You have that drive, you have that competitive edge, and you are the leader. So do you lead just by example? How do you pull it out of people that they don't even understand what that means?
Well, I will tell you that the team at JA did not understand what that meant, right? Because it was run like a nonprofit. And that was the mentality. And I think the world is changing, thank goodness, because people are starting to realize that we may be nonprofit status, but we are a business, okay? Right. We generate sales. We call it fundraising, right? Mm-hmm. We have a strategic plan, just like everybody else. Because if you don't have a roadmap, right, you don't know where you're going, you don't know how you're going to get there. Sure. And so I think that things are changing. As I've been in the nonprofit world, I've seen a huge shift in mindset around nonprofits, right? It used to be you were passionate and you did the work, and you still run into people who go, yeah, but wait a minute, you're doing good work and you're there because you're doing good work for the community. And why should you get paid the same as another CEO? And I'm like, because I'm running a business, right? Our mission, our product is an amazing mission. But it's no different. And if we're going to be successful and we're going to sustain this organization and continue to do the great work we do, we better run like a business, right? So I come from a business background, and I think understanding early on that when you go into the nonprofit field, you have to run it like a business, right? You've got to set your strategy. You got to have the right people with the right skills in place. And again, I think, setting the strategy part is easy. Right? Sure. It's not the right people to execute that are really, really hard. But I think that's what's helped us take these organizations from good to great. It's not easy changing mindset. Very often you lose people. They leave because they don't feel comfortable with the mindset. And you know what? I've been told that I'm intimidating. I have been told that I am pushy. I have been told that I'm aggressive, assertive, relentless, all those words. I take them as a compliment, Mark. I used to get offended, but I don't anymore. And by the way, I want to tell you something. You said something when you introduced me. You said, you called me a female leader. That absolutely has its challenges at times for women leaders, but I don't want to be called a female leader. I want to be called a leader. Right.
And fair. So for me, the reason I say it is because in today's world, it means something. It has a look, she's done it. She's climbed the ladder and she's an equal to everybody in this place, even though you say female, which immediately makes it different than just saying leader. But I want to recognize the fact that female leaders have had to come through a different environment than just any other CEO male leader in the world, because it's different, and and I don't want to get too political in this conversation, but it's the same thing that we're talking about with social injustice right now. People have to recognize that Black people in this country have had different experiences for the past 80 years, right? Or however, 60 years since the civil rights movement than white people have. And until people are willing to accept that there's a difference, you can never really get to equality, because equal means understanding the other person. Equal means understanding the dialogue. So I appreciate the fact that you called me out on that, because I would never, I don't mean it in a way to make you different than a leader, because you to me are no different than Nick Saban. You guys are the exact same.
Thank you. And I know that, right? Otherwise I wouldn't have said it, but I said it to make a point, right?
Yeah.
Not to chew you out about it at all.
No.
But Sheryl Sandberg said, right, we will have achieved success when we don't refer to women as female leaders and we just refer to them as leaders. And I agree with that. And there have been challenges. And when I say challenges, I don't mean like really big challenges, right? But there are people who still look and say, oh, come on, well, you're just being a bitch. Excuse my French, but
Yeah,
okay. And you know what? But if I was a man, you would not think I was being a bitch. You would think I was being strategic, right?
Right. Being a tough leader,
Powerful,
setting the,
influential, right? Effective leader. But because I'm a woman and I'm pushing the greatness and success, right, of the organization, I'm a bitch. You know what? I don't let it stop me. And I think when people use it as an excuse, that's awful too. You will never hear me use it as an excuse. I just told you I was proud to be called those things.
Sure.
And you know, I use the word relentless, you know, and I have a friend who said to me one day, a couple of years ago, you're relentless. And I was so like hurt. And I was like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm too pushy but you know what? The more I read about it, and there's a book about being relentless. It's written by a coach, and I can't remember his name right now, but it's about being relentless in the pursuit, right? The pursuit of your passion, the pursuit of your mission, right? If we're not relentless about it, who will be?
Sure.
And so I think that, and you asked me, do I lead by example? Well, I hope so, but I also lead by empowering. And you know what I've realized? You have to give them the tools, the knowledge. And I've learned that more at JA than anywhere else. And so we have a book club, a leadership book club, and I've watched the mindset of these people change because I could tell them the same thing that came out of that book. Wouldn't matter, right? Right. But
No, it makes a difference.
And also, while we were reading the book, Mark, I said to them, this is something I'm working on as a leader. And it was like, wow, she's telling us where she's vulnerable, where she needs to improve, right? And so watching this mindset of our people really around growing and being better and understanding that no matter what your title is, you're a leader in our organization and I respect you for what you bring to the table. And then empowering. I don't have time to babysit anybody and we're too many people. Right. So my job is to give them the tools they need to do that.
So you said something very, very important is that it's your job to give them the tools and to give them the ability to do the job, but you can't do the job for them. You can't step in and be the one to do it. So how do you deal with the disconnect or how do you create the accountability culture within an organization of, look, I've supplied you with everything that I have within my power to make you successful and you're not willing to do it. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. Well, I go back to, it's really about mindset, right?
Sure.
You know, and we have accountability and performance, you know, management things in place, right? We have our strategic plan and then we have our, we work on a project management basis. So everybody, here's what I've tried to do. I've said to everybody, whether it's a program, an event, a project, you are the CEO of that company. Right? You get to hire the people on your team. You get to set your budget. You get to define your strategic plan, right? And how you're going to get to where you got to get. You're going to figure out how you're going to measure where you're going to get. And then you're going to be accountable for all of that, right? So number one, you got to give them the authority to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Besides the tools. And so that's number one. But you have to change the mindset first. If I had tried to do that before I had worked with the team for them to understand that they have to be responsible and accountable and all of that. You have to engage them along the way and you have to build the mindset and build that culture before you can really get them to do that. At least that's what I have found.
And it's so interesting to me because to pull it to the sports world, you get a lot of time to build mindset and to build habits and build behaviors before you actually play your first game. But that's not the case in business. Business is constantly happening. So you have to deal with correcting behaviors that aren't happening the way you want them to happen, that are that are affecting the scoreboard, right? Sales are coming and going. So it's not like you can say, okay, I'm becoming the CEO now. We're not going to do any business for 6 months because I have to change everybody's mindset. You have to change the mindset while you're changing the behaviors. That's a really difficult thing to do. How do you create patience? Because I think you and I think in the same wavelength of, if I say I want something done now, that means it should have been done yesterday. And so, and that comes to me from the world that I've grown up in, and in the coaching world, where if a superior asked you for a report or asked you to do something, it's already late because they asked for it. You should have had it on their desk before they even thought about asking for that. So how did you find the patience to temper yourself, to build mindset, to build culture, to build behavior in the business world while things are still happening?
You know, that's something that I work on constantly.
Hi, Patrick.
Would you like to say hello?
Yes, he has to say hello. Hi, Patrick.
Sorry,
good to see you, buddy.
He has to make an appearance on every show there is. You know, patience is not something that comes naturally to me because, thanks, buddy.
That's sweet.
He is part of how I've learned to become patient, right? So I have a lot of patience for people who have the drive, who have the ability, who have the potential, and want to learn and grow and be better. I have zero tolerance, zero, okay? Whether it's my kid, whether it's my employee, no, it doesn't matter who it is. I have zero tolerance for somebody who doesn't want to get there. I'm not wasting my time. And that sounds awful maybe, but, and I don't mean it to sound that cold, but I am one of those people that I will coach you. If I see you have potential, I will coach you. I will give you my all to help you grow and to get you to the potential, right? Like that woman did for me.
Yes.
But I took it and I ran with it, right? When she gave me those challenges, I wanted to prove to her that I could do what she wanted and more, right?
Yep.
But when someone doesn't show me that, and I will try for a long time, like Michael tells me, you know, like you let somebody just kick you a few times before you say no. You let him kick him once and then he's out of there, right? Yeah. So I really do invest a lot of time in people that I think have the potential. But once I see that they don't have that mindset and that attitude, at some point you have to say, I can't take them there, right? And this is not the right environment for them. And most times what happens, I don't have to say that, they leave because they don't feel comfortable in the environment that we're operating in. And by the way, when I interview people, I'm looking for 2 development people right now, salespeople. Mm-hmm. I have been very upfront and said, just so you know, this is who I am and this is the culture, right? There's no mediocrity. There's no average. We are going to be the best. And if you want to be part of a team that works hard, drives hard, right, stays focused on the goals and the metrics and the mission, right, and at the same time feels great about what we're doing, this is the right team. But if you don't want that, this is not the right team for you. And that's okay, right? But patience, I can't say that I have it, but I work on it constantly. And listen, it's taken our team, I would say, a solid 3 years working on this stuff to get there. So it has taken patience, but sometimes I just come home and I want to pull my hair out. I can't tell them that, but you know, sometimes it's hard.
So coming across advertising, nonprofit, different nonprofits, being the head of the organizations, how do you do, like, success in an advertising firm is revenue, right? Like at the end of the day, it's dollars and cents. And the more people that are advertising with you, like, did you build great companies? Yeah, that's great. We had great campaigns and it drove sales for those companies. But just because those companies got sales doesn't mean that your company did well if that was the only client, right? So in an advertising firm, it's all based on revenue. How many people are spending to advertise with you? What does success look like in a nonprofit, or specifically JA?
You know, I think that's a good question. I think, you know, first and foremost, we're there because of our why, right? We have a passion around what we do. And so I have to tell you that that absolutely is the first part of the success, is that we are changing young people's lives for sure.
Right.
If we're not doing that, the rest of it doesn't matter. Okay.
Right.
And that's what drives us to do the rest, right? Because we're so focused on making a difference in these young people's lives. My entire team, that's why they push so hard, right? That's why we're shooting for stretch goals and metrics and how many kids we serve. And it's not just about the numbers you serve, but how are we making an impact and how do we measure that, right? With the tools that we have, assessment tools. So I think success is measured in a lot of different ways in nonprofit, but I think first and foremost, and by the way, I think whether I'm in a nonprofit status company or for-profit, that has to be how you define success. That has to be the first thing. Because if you're not passionate about your business and what your business's mission or why is, right? Ours is amazing. But, somebody else might be in the pharmaceutical business, right? Maybe it's to make people feel better, right? Or to walk better or whatever it is that their product does. That's the focus. How do you get to that success, right? And make a difference in people's lives. How you get there is the strategy. But to me, that's the ultimate success, changing people's lives.
That's phenomenal, and you're doing that with the young people at JA, which is absolutely incredible. So the last question that I have for you is, as you're looking at this organization, you're bringing new people in. Do people have to be passionate about helping the kids, or do they have to be passionate about business development? Because those are two different things. Being passionate about being a salesperson and creating new relationships and driving new conversations and building business doesn't necessarily mean that you're passionate about the why of junior achievement, which is helping kids. So as you're looking at people and you say, wow, this is a phenomenal salesperson. They're tenacious. They're unbelievable at building relationships. They're great listeners. They're great communicators. All of the things that you would want if you built a perfect business development person, but they don't know anything about junior achievement or care to know anything about junior achievement. Will you walk away from that opportunity because the why has to be what matters?
Absolutely. Listen, I could not sell or raise money for junior achievement if I was not passionate about it. I have tried. Now, listen, every one of my assessments says I should be in sales, right? I know.
You are in sales. Everybody's in sales, right?
Right.
I mean, let's be serious.
But I love people, right? And all of my assessments show that, right? I'm a high D, right? So I'm a driver, but I also am very, that whole people part of building relationships and all of that is there. And so I think, I don't think you can sell anything if you're not passionate about it. You're just going through the motions, right? And at the end of the day, you might put numbers on the board, but you're not going to feel really successful. And so whether it's your product, whether it's your mission, whether it's your service, whatever it is, you got to feel passionate about it first. And yes, I will walk away from someone if they're not passionate about what we do, because what makes me a good salesperson, in my opinion, and I've been told this, is my passion. And I've been told my passion is contagious. So if I feel passionate about my why and the organization's why, gosh, if I can pass that on to you, you're going to want to help. You're going to want to get involved, right? You're going to want to find a way. So,
well, you know that I do want to get involved. I feel like you don't like me because you won't allow me to be involved. Like I've done something wrong, and junior achievement is too good for me to be involved with.
That's because you called me a female leader. Now I'm not like, no, I'm only kidding. No, I have to tell you something. I'm glad that you said that, because I want to tell you that I'm so cautious around having anyone feel that I take advantage of asking them to do things for our organization, whether it's for our team or our staff. And somebody on my team came to me the other day and they said, look, I saw Mark's video about video. And he said, I really want to reach out to him, but I know we're not really one of their accounts, but we did do some training with you. And I know you guys said that, anybody's welcome to reach out. And I said, no, reach out to him. He'll help you. But I'm always very conscious of, right? I never want people to feel like we're taking advantage of that. And so we do come to you occasionally. But again, I want to be thoughtful and I want to be considerate and not have somebody walk away and geesh, right? They're asking me every minute to do something. And so
now, technically I owe you because you've been a guest on my show. So there's an IOU out there that should definitely be filled at some point in the near future because I absolutely love everything that you stand for as a leader. I love what you talk about when it comes to vulnerability, relentlessness, pursuit of perfection, how you will coach people who have potential, the why at the center of everything. You do and say everything just the way I would want anybody to run an organization that I'm a part of. So I'm privileged to have you as a friend, as a family friend, as somebody who I can look to as a leader and look up to. So thank you for being a guest on the show. Anybody who wants to get involved with JA because they're doing tremendous kids for the future of our world, the kids that are coming up through it and giving them advantages and teaching them what they need to know. I have no doubt that there will be continued success with JA because of you. And thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. I'm going to have you back. I got to get you back and get you on Recipe for Success. And then we can show your father how it's done. Okay.
Thank you, Laurie.
So I promise, because I think our young people especially need to see that, right? They look at people like your dad and I, and we've been around a long time. But when they see young people like you, right, really getting it and doing it well, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Over the years, watching you transition has been amazing, and I can't even imagine for your dad I know how proud he is, and I look at my daughter, and I just want to say the last thing is, sometimes, yes, our people need a hug, and sometimes my daughter, right, or my son needs a hug. But my daughter will tell you that, and she says this to me now that she's a little older, thanks for not just hugging me, but also making me, right, responsible for what I did and not allowing me to make excuses for myself. And so, yeah, I am tough, right? And I do believe in tough love. But at the end of the day, it's always with the intention of making the people around me and the people I love and respect better. So anytime I can be there for you, young man, I will be there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laurie.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.